G'day trendsetters, John with Gravel Cyclist. Today I'm shooting a very brief video about the bike that I'm going to be using at the 2018 Dirty Kanza 200. 200 miles of Kansas gravel, beginning and ending in Emporia, Kansas. For those folks who watch my YouTube channel, my Instagram presence, or my website, gravelcyclist.com, you will probably already be familiar with this bike, the Linsky Pro GR, a titanium gravel bike, and one that I reviewed earlier this year on the Gravel Cyclist website. I liked it so much that I arranged to keep this bike for myself, so that should give you an indication of how much I really like it. A few things have changed about the build since I obtained the bike. The first thing that stands out is this bike's wheel set, and these wheels are made by Xentis, X-E-N-T-I-S, and this company is out of Austria. Now they're a 4-spoke carbon fiber composite wheel set. Now the bad news is I'm not actually going to be using this wheel set at Dirty Kanza, but that's only because I've agreed to ride a pair of wheels manufactured by my friends at Envy, and these are brand new wheels to market. They're actually not available right now, and I can't unfortunately show them to you because they're embargoed until the Dirty Kanza date. So if you ride with me on race day, be sure to take a look at the wheels and ask me any questions you have. Well, in between my hard breathing, that is. But regardless, these wheels, I am going to be reviewing these wheels long term, and thus far they're pretty amazing. So on to the other details of the bike. Some of you may know this already, I'm a huge fan of 2 chain rings, double chain rings. And in the case here, these are made by Absolute Black. They're ovalized chain rings. And the big ring is a 46 tooth and the small ring is a 30 tooth. And what's really interesting is these mate to a Ultegra crankset or a Dura-Ace crankset, which features a 110 BCD. Anyway, I'm reviewing these chain rings long term, and the best way to test them, in my opinion, is to race them. So that's what I'm going to be doing at Dirty Kanza. The rest of the drivetrain started off originally as a Ultegra 11-speed Di2 setup, but I changed that. I'm running a 9070 generation Dura-Ace Di2 configuration, and the rear derailleur is a short cage. It will shift a 32 tooth cog, not a problem at all, and it matches to the front Dura-Ace 9070 front derailleur. This may be a crazy theory, but I figure that a short cage rear derailleur has less chance of picking up any obstacles, say tree limbs or twigs or little bits of sticks, because about 6 months ago I tore a derailleur hanger off this bike with a mid-cage rear derailleur, and since that time I've been running a short cage. Obviously you are limited by your gear range, in this case a 32 tooth cog, but paired with a 46 and a 30 small ring, I should be able to climb anything. Moving on to the handlebars, right now they're not set up with my cameras, etc., but I do use the Di2 system, as I mentioned earlier, and this is the climbing shifter. I like to ride the tops of the bars quite a lot, and I'll shift gears there all the time really, and also the style points have to go to the odd coloured zip tie. Looks quite out of place. And the other thing, I have not cut my stereo tube short. In the event that one day I sell this bike, I really don't want to punish the next owner, but the stem is not quite slammed, but it's in line with my bro position, which is pretty aggressive, not for everybody. And the bars are FSA compact drop. I really like that configuration. Now I did swap out the stock fork on the Linsky. I'm using a 3T Luteus 2, which has insane tire clearance. Now this pair of wheels is 650B by 42 millimeter. It's a WTB Resolute tire, and as you can see, there's a huge amount of clearance there. Now if there is mud, I am going to be using a different pair of wheels, which I'll show to you in a moment. On the front of the bike, on the handlebars, I've got the Shimano STR785 hydraulic Di2 brake and shifter units. So obviously hydraulic brakes front and rear, and a Linsky setback seat post constructed from titanium, and my Di2 battery is living inside. And on top of the seat post is one of my favorite saddles, the Physique Ariane. Now you might be asking, why the heck are you running a white saddle and bar tape? Well, life's too short and I like to have a classy looking bike, so I run white. Also, my bike stands out from the crowd that way, so it's easy to find in a group of bikes, for example, if I was to lay it on the ground. check out the tyre clearance on the rear of this bike. There is a ton, so if the conditions do get muddy, I should be okay. I have ridden a Linsky before, namely at the 2017 Land Run 100. I had no problems at all on that particular bike. It was actually a GR250, but the rear stays are almost identical to the Pro GR, which is constructed from 6.4 titanium, as alluded to on the top tube. Onto the pedals, and these are the XP EDO Top Flight model, which features titanium just about everywhere. They're SPD compatible and extremely light. Bottle cages are an item that is often overlooked, and I rely solely on the King Cage titanium model. These cages do a stellar job of holding bottles in pretty bad conditions actually. And speaking of the bottles, I'll be using the Zeffel Magnum bottles, which hold 1 litre of water. That's about 32 ounces. And because my frame, I like to push the limit, I like to ride the smallest frame I can possibly get away with, I've had to rely on the Wolf-Toothed B-Rad, which is a basically a little adapter to allow me to move my bottle cage, my rear bottle cage, further down the frame. I'm going to link in the description of this video to a review I have on the gravelcyclist.com website about that product. Onto the brakes. These are Shimano's BR785 hydraulic units, nothing crazy there, although I have substituted titanium bolts. One thing you may notice, this frame is designed for flat mount, and unfortunately I have not procured a true flat mount brake for the rear at this time, so I'm using an adapter, so it's a little bit of a bodge. The brake rotors are a Shima's AI2 air rotor. Now these rotors, they're very minimalistic, and people may think, what the hell, they don't work. Well, they do. I rode these rotors, this exact pair, at the 2017 Dirty Kanza with no problems whatsoever. I may not use them this year, but they're still very light if you are looking to save a little bit of weight, but they're not really an item I would recommend if you're into riding gravel in the high mountains. They do need a little bit more surface area, in my opinion. Onto the front, and it's another Shimano BR785 brake, again using titanium bolts to fix it to the 3T Luthiers fork, which uses the post-mount standard. And one of the last components is the Seabear ceramic bearing English thread bottom bracket. I've had this bottom bracket in this bicycle for quite some time. It is bomb-proof, rock solid, it is smooth as butter, still is, and I've been very unkind to it. So I'm going to be sticking with this bottom bracket for this year's Dirty Kanza. The bottom bracket, often the unsung hero of one's gravel bike. The one thing I forgot to mention was the tyres I'm going to use, assuming a dry conditions race, and that is the Panaracer Gravel King SK. It's a tubeless tyre, and this version measures 700C by 38mm. In fact, this is 1/2 of the exact tyre pair that I used at the 2017 edition of the race. And if you look down at the description below, you can also see a link to my review for these tyres. If the proverbial poop hits the fan and weather conditions call for a mud race, I'm going to switch to my Plan B wheel set, which is, unfortunately, I lost audio at this point during the recording. Carrying on, I'll be using the American Classic Race 29er wheel set, fitted with Panaracer Gravel King mud tyres. These are a tubeless tyre and do a bang-up job of shedding mud when conditions are completely horrendous. They measure 700C by 35mm, and the Linsky Pro GR frame has a ton of clearance all around these tyres. The big race, Dirty Kanza, is just over a week away at the time of this video, and I sincerely wish everybody a lot of good luck with their bike preparation. Don't sweat it too much, and more importantly, a lot of good luck come race day. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.